Yes.
And the basis for his concern was that Mr. Gray was taking photographs, right?
Yes.
Deputy Cook didn't convey any other details to you about what Mr. Gray was doing, right?
I don't think he did, yes. Correct.
Okay. You asked Mr. Gray to move closer to the building.
Yes.
What happened next?
I made contact with the director or manager of the building and asked her if she wanted him removed from the property.
And what did she say?
Yes.
And what did you do then?
I went back and talked to Mr. Gray and told him now he's trespassing and he had to leave the property.
Did Mr. Gray exit the private property onto and enter the right-of-way?
Yes.
And did he do that prior to you arresting him?
Yes.
And then what happened?
I arrested him on the right-of-way in front of this traffic stop.
So when you effected the arrest, you and Mr. Gray were on the right-of-way.
Yes.
Is it your understanding that Mr. Gray committed a crime by leaving his van in the parking lot after you issued him a warning to leave?
I believe it was part of the trespass crime, yes.
So someone can be subject to arrest not only by refusing to leave after having been issued a trespass warning, but also by leaving property, personal property like a van, on someone else's property after having been issued a trespass warning. Is that your understanding of the law?
No, I don't think just leaving personal property on someone else's property is a crime. I think if you're trespassing and you're told to get in your van and leave, and you just walk away and leave your van with your wife and kid in it, that's part of that element for that particular incident.
And I want to make sure I understand you.
Okay.
Okay. Your testimony is that even if he had immediately departed the property and proceeded on to, say, the right-of-way, but left his van, still left his van in the parking lot, he could have still been subject to arrest for trespassing after warning because of the fact that he left his van in the parking lot.
Not just because he left the van in the parking lot.
Why else then?
I guess the question would be, why leave your van with your child and your wife in it when you could just get in the van and take the van, your property, off of the property that you're being trespassed from and alleviate the problem? I guess that would be the question.
It's not the question.
Well, I mean, I know, it's
not
the
the
question, but to answer your question is no, it's not a crime to just leave property somewhere.
Okay. And that is the question.
Okay, yes.
My question is,
No, it's not a crime to just leave it there.
it's only a crime if he refuses to remove his person
Yes.
from private property.
So it's part of the trespass crime, but then now we go back to the obstruction crime. If I tell him, take your van and your wife and your child and leave this property that you're being trespassed from verbally, and you refuse to do that, now doesn't that go back to now he's not complying with that? I mean.
And I want to make sure I
Right.
understand.
If he would have just left, problem would have been solved.
Okay. But he didn't want to leave.
Correct.
He wanted to photograph the traffic stop, right?
Right, which we told him he could.
Yeah.
And we told him where he could do that, but he didn't want to do that either.
Yeah. And you told him that he could do that closer to the building, right?
Yes.
Closer to the private property,
Yes.
further into the private property from which you then
Trespassed in front.
trespassed him from.
Correct.
Right.
I believe if he would have complied and gone up on the sidewalk by the building to video all the video he wanted or photographs, there would have been no situation. I believe if after he was told he was trespassing, if he would have got in his van and drove away, there would have been no situation. I believe if he didn't get out and walk into the grass there and cause some kind of fear or some kind of concern with Deputy Cook, I wouldn't have even had to come to the scene. So if he would have just, I don't want to say, if he would have just been a nice guy and if I said, hey sir, can you just go stand up there and take all the video you want? But he didn't want to. He wanted to prove his point, and here we are.
If he had been a nice guy,
Yes.
you told him that he can kiss your ass, right?
No, I didn't tell him that.
You didn't say that?
I said it, but I didn't tell it to him. That was after the fact. That was his recording still going.
Okay. But Mr. Gray was the guy who was not a nice guy that day.
That is correct.
Okay.
The time is 12:42. That concludes the deposition of Brian Stoll. We are now off record.